everyone, welcome back to Guitar 102, the video series where we learn to play guitar together. In the previous video, we learned how to tune our guitars, and you should always try to do that before you practice, even though I'm a little bit guilty of not doing that myself, but you should always try to do it. And even though I'm sure you already tuned your guitars, on today's video we will not be using them. Today we will be learning about metronomes, the basics of rhythm, and how to practice using metronomes. We can define rhythm as the succession of sounds or silences and the space between them or time between those sounds. To make sure we are consistent with the time between those sounds, we use a tool called a metronome. You may have seen a metronome before. It used to be a pendulum that oscillated at a certain frequency, but nowadays we use software to emulate that functionality. In the previous video, I told you about an app called Guitar Tuna. I'm not sponsored by them, don't worry. That's useful for tuning your guitar. But also that app has a metronome incorporated. And you can always search, if you don't want to download the app on your cell phone, you can always search on the web for metronome online. And there's a lot of web pages that have free metronomes. So how do we use a metronome? A metronome uses a unit called BPM, or beats per minute. It says the number of times the metronome sounds in a minute. So for example, if you put 60 BPM, the metronome will sound 60 times in a minute or once per second. If you have that to, for example, 120 BPM, it will sound 120 times in a minute or twice per second, the double speed of 60 BPMs. So let's address a little bit of misconceptions when we're using a metronome. The metronome is used as a reference, not as a guide. What do I mean by that? If you, for example, wait for the metronome to sound to do your action, for example, play a note on the guitar or piano, or play the drum, you will always be dragging. Because when the metronome sounds, the sound has a delay because it has to travel through air. And then you have a delay because of your reaction time. So if you wait for the metronome to sound, you will always be dragging or behind the sound. So now I will show an example of how to use a metronome. I will put the metronome on 60 BPMs and we will try to clap our hands at the rhythm of the metronome. Okay, so here I have my software recording a web page and I will put the BPM at 60 BPMs. Here we have the metronome sounding at 60 BPMs. And the idea is to always clap on the beat. 2, 3, 4. If you wait for it to sound, you will always be kind of dragging. You don't want to do that. You want to feel the rhythm and predict when the metronome is going to sound. We don't want to be rushing either. No clapping faster, always landing on the beat. And you want to correct that as you practice. If you, for example, get out of tempo, wait 1-2 beats and try to recoordinate. And that's how you should always try to practice with a metronome. You should always try to practice at the start for around 1-2 minutes twice a day. And I would suggest a BPM of around 50 to 65 BPMs. The ideal BPM will be 60 BPMs because that's the rhythm of seconds, something we use on everyday life, so you have a little bit of practice with that rhythm already. Once you get used to using a metronome, you can start increasing the BPMs by increments of 5 or 10 if you feel confident enough. As always, thanks for watching. I will be leaving links in the description for the app and for one of the websites with a metronome. And leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to learn a little bit more of guitar playing. And as always, I hope to see you on the next video. Bye.